Hi, I'm Brian. Kettle's on, make yourself a cup of tea. Now, today I want to talk about the Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City film, which has just had its first photos released. I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know this film was being made. I thought the only Resident Evil project that was being worked on was the Netflix series. But we've had some stills released, and there's an article on it that I'm just going to read part of. Now the stills that have been released are of Leon and Claire from Resident Evil 2, and then you've got Chris, Jill, Wesker and Richard in the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1, and there's a picture of Lisa Trevor from the remake of Resident Evil on the GameCube. Now like I say, I didn't even realise this movie was being made. I thought it was just the Netflix series of Resident Evil. But from first initial look at the photos, the production value of the film doesn't look overly promising. The characters don't look like they do in the games for Leon and Claire. Neither do they really look like they do in the games for the other characters, Chris, Jill and Wesker. To be fair, Chris doesn't look too bad, and I actually don't mind the production design for Lisa Trevor. Now, I was never a fan of the original Resident Evil films. I thought they swayed too much from the games, and they had pretty much nothing in common with them, apart from the name. So I am glad that they're not going that route with it. Now, it does say in the article that the upcoming film is based on the first two Resident Evil games. The movie chronicles how Raccoon City went from being a city of industry to a dying Midwestern town that became ground zero for the T-virus. In an exclusive interview with ING, Roberts elaborated on the differences between his Resident Evil movie and the prior film starring Mila Djokovic, and how his filmmaking approach draws not only from the Capcom games, but also from old school genre filmmaking. So it does sound like they're not going the direction of the original films. And it does say in the article that this movie really had nothing to do with the previous franchise. This was all about returning to the games and creating a movie that was much more a horror movie than a sort of sci-fi action of the previous films. Which is good, because Resident Evil brought the survival horror genre to the forefront of the game industry, if not actually kickstarting it itself. I'm not sure if it was the first one or not, but I know it was definitely the first mainstream popular survival horror game. And he does say that the film is heavily influenced by Assault on Precinct 13. I haven't seen the remake of Assault on Precinct 13, but the original John Carpenter film was a fantastic film. He does address the characters not looking exactly like they do in the games in the interview. He states, "The difference with this film as opposed to the previous movies is that it is an ensemble where each of the main characters carries huge importance to the narrative. They are not just cosplay characters who have the exact same hair and costume of the characters. It was hugely important with the whole casting process to find people who embodied the spirit and energy of the characters I wanted to portray. I think often in game adaptations, one of the big flaws can be just casting someone who to look visually like the characters, giving them the identical haircut and clothes, but not really trying to give the audience the thing that a movie does better than a game, which is to create a 3-dimensional character that you can really connect and believe in." Roberts recalled, "It was particularly difficult to get the right actors to play Leon S. Kennedy. We must have seen so many people, it was really quite a tricky role, because of the balance of humour and weariness. Then Aaron read, and I was like, he's the one, he gets it." So if that's the case, then I will have no issues at all with these characters looking different to what's in the games, because it sounds like he has casted off talent rather than anything else, which a lot of movies, TV shows don't do these days. But casting of talent should be at the forefront of every casting decision made. I mean, films are made by people's acting abilities, not people's looks, race, sexuality. None of that should matter in the end, other than people's acting abilities. That's going to help the film. Which is a tricky situation when adapting something like a game or a comic. People are always going to be looking for people that look like they do in the original medium that they came from, which in most cases won't be the case. Not every casting is going to look like the person who they're meant to play. I mean, very little do. I mean, not everyone's going to be an exact fit for the role like J.K. Simmons was for J. Jonah Jameson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. It's just realistically not going to happen. But I'm glad he's gone for acting abilities rather than going off someone's looks, race, religious beliefs, sexuality, because at the end of the day, that's not going to be important to the film, unless you're making a film about that particular subject. But I don't know, particularly the still for Leon and Claire, it doesn't overfill me with confidence for how it looks. I mean, there's still a little bit of time before it comes out. They'll still be obviously working on post. They might be changing their lighting. I don't know, but it just doesn't feel or look right. Now I know you can't really tell much off one image. The Spencer Mansion image doesn't look too bad, but I think the best image is the Lisa Trevors one. But I'm not sure how they're going to do it, because it says the film is going to follow the first two games, Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2. But I think that would have been suited for two different films. First film, Resident Evil. Sequel, Resident Evil 2. Because Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 don't happen side by side. Resident Evil 2 happens after the events of Resident Evil. So it's not like they can switch between one plot to the other to keep them both going. The plot of Resident Evil in the Spencer Mansion is going to have to finish halfway through the film for then the plot of Resident Evil 2 to happen. Which I think will just cut short the stories and give you two mediocre films stitched together. I think it would have been much better off adapting each game for each film, especially in regards to Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3, as it is a little trilogy of games. But what do you guys think? Do you think it looks good? Are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to the Netflix adaptation more? Do let me know in the comments below. And that's all from me. I'm off to make a fresh cup of tea.